Great. Let's get this conversation out of here into London, where my colleague Juliana Olayinka is standing by for this conversation. Thank you, Juliana, for coming through. Hope you had a very great weekend.
I had a lovely weekend. Thank you, Bosun. Good morning.
Thank you. This is just coming through this morning that the UK's GDP was up 0.3% in the third quarter, the slowest year-on-year. Very small information from the National Office for National Statistics. So the British pound is trading higher on that. There's some good news there. You can add to the conversation a little bit later on. So, but let's start with the British Steel. Ready to sign on a rescue package. We understand it's about £70 million. Who's bringing this money to the table? And why does a British Steel, one of the oldest and the largest in the world, need a bailout?
Well, Bosun, you know, the fate of more than 4,000 workers and about 20,000 other workers in the supply chain are all relying on this bailout by Jinye, which is a Chinese conglomerate industrial company. They've put in a last-minute bid to try and save British Steel, which, as you said, is one of the oldest steel firms in the UK. It's definitely the second largest. And in May, they fell into liquidation. They're not the first steel production company in the UK to do so. There have been several other big names, including Tata Steel, which was owned by an Indian company. They're almost a subsidiary of British Steel. But, you know, they've had a lot of problems. We've heard and we've seen that manufacturing in the UK is just not economically attractive to investors, both here in the UK and outside the UK. The British government in January, they had an opportunity to actually save British Steel and plummet some money in it, but they refused to do so. So this is really good news. If Jinye actually do come forward with the £70 million, it looks like they will do so, because apparently staff in the northern east plants, which a lot of these manufacturing plants are in the northeast of England, they've been told via email that discussions are ongoing. So if the deal does indeed take place, then of course it's those 25,000 jobs that will be saved. And also this will be a huge thumbs up for Boris Johnson's government, particularly in campaign season, because in the north of the country, a lot of them feel as if, you know, those in London have completely, you know, ostracized them from economics of the UK. So if this is saved, then this is a good sign that the government are sticking to their pledge of saving steel production in Britain.
Very interesting that the Chinese have their fingers in almost every pie on the planet. They're coming in droves. They're all over Africa with their footprints now. Even the UK can't resist the Chinese, the dragon, when it comes to the deep pockets China has and its firms to take over and support businesses around the world. The fence over the trade deal with Washington is still out there anyway. By the way, let's continue with this news over the weekend. Moody's, one of the top 3 rating agencies globally, lowers UK's credit rating outlook to negative. That is a very interesting piece of news. But again, here we have the GDP printing just 0.3% in Q3. Nigeria's GDP numbers will be out in about 2 weeks' time. So what is this all about? Do you have a bit more details on why Moody's decided that the outlook for UK's economy or credit rating is negative?
Well, as you said, you know, Moody's, they're the American credit rating agency. They're American, but still the world do take them particularly seriously, especially the UK. And this is a huge blow to not only Boris Johnson, but Sajid Javid, the Chancellor of the Exchequer or the Finance Minister in the UK. Over the weekend, he was just speaking to several radio organisations during his campaign and saying that he's going to try and keep the public purse really tight. But Moody's, they don't think that's the case. They've been looking at some of the manifestos, not just from the Conservatives, but the opposition party, the Labour Party, and they're seeing that there's a lot of spending splurges. You know, they're saying they want to put money into the NHS, they want to put money into infrastructure and the new technological revolution in the UK. But where is this money coming from? So they're looking at our debt burden, and they said that perhaps they will. So it's still an outlook. Perhaps they will be downgrading the UK from a AAA rating, which is the rating of Germany, economy to a AA squared rating. So it's a negative rating, still on par with France. Not great, still not the worst. Of course, there are several other countries that have much worse credit ratings, but this is certainly not good, particularly because of Brexit. Moody's did say that Brexit is one of the main reasons why they perhaps will downgrade the credit, not just because of the election. So whoever wins, whether it's the Conservatives or Labour, they just don't see that all this spending is being really budgeted well. And of course, they said the fallout from Brexit could leave us in an economic paralysis for years to come.
So do you think that this latest GDP numbers, no matter how little, I'm sure UK can use any piece of good news right now in the countdown to the elections, in the countdown to Brexit, another Brexit deadline next year. Every piece of news, no matter how little, is good news for the markets.
Absolutely. Every news is good news here in the UK. And of course, you know, the fact that Q3 has shown a 0.3% growth is fantastic because, of course, a couple of months ago, we were talking about the UK technically being in a recession. It contracted by 0.2% in Q2. So this growth is great. Of course, as you said at the top of your show, that, you know, there are some economists that are saying that this is the lowest growth we've seen year on year in about 10 years, which isn't good. I think in the year on year, we've grown about 0.1%, but a 0.3% rating is still very good. In September, I think we contracted 0.1%. So last month wasn't all that fantastic, but we had strong performance in July. The services sector is the UK's most important part of the economy. That makes up about 80% of GDP. So this 0.3% growth shows that, you know, there's still some hope. The people are still buying, people are still dining, people are still going out, and that's very, very important. Of course, you know, this data just came in a few minutes ago, so hopefully by intraday I can have a real look at it and we can crunch down the numbers. But services is supposed to be really what's propped up the UK economy. Manufacturing is still very, very low.
But do you have any corporate news on your radar for this week, starting from today? Do you think any big news out there that could be impactful on the market as we start a new week?
Well, there is some corporate news out. This week, we're expecting results from ITV, Vodafone and Burberry. It'll be interesting to see just how well Burberry are doing. They did quite well in the last quarter, so we'll be expecting their profit results anytime soon. Also, Prosus, that South African and Dutch, the South African online company who wanted to buy Just Eat. They have warned shareholders this week that if Just Eat, the online food delivery services, goes and forms and merges in a 10 billion deal with their Dutch rival company takeaway.com, then they will be pulling out. That they're really interested in Just Eat, but if they go ahead with their merger, they're out. That should be interesting because, of course, Just Eat are in a bidding war between Prosus and takeaway.com at the moment. Also, as well, the UK London living wage, that's going to be going up. There is a charity called thelivingwage.com and several companies across the UK, even some significant FTSE 100 companies, they've signed up to this pledge. And that's basically to give workers a little bit more money in their pocket. Once you've topped up your oyster and bought an expensive lunch in central London, it really is difficult to live here. So apparently 200,000 workers across the UK will be receiving this increase just before Christmas, which is very, very good news for a few people across Britain.
It's good news for you. If those folks are heading to Nigeria to add up a little bit to what I earn here, I wouldn't mind. Let me know when they're heading this way. I'll just be giving them that welcome handshake at the airport. Thank you so much, Juliana. Have a great day and have a good lunchtime business chat with Chimeze Obiwago on Business Incorporated 1:30 Nigerian time. Thank you so much, and thank you to our viewers here in Nigeria and around the world. This is your Business Morning today. Let's get back tomorrow when businesses and markets are reopened here in Nigeria. I'll see you then.